would like to first of all essentially address the issues pertaining to the Ministry of Education. I'd like to start off by apologizing to the parents and the teaching staff for the recent statement given to the media by the Permanent Secretary for Education regarding the results of an English proficiency test taken by teaching applicants. That statement was incorrect. The test was not administered on the basis of pass or fail. The purpose of the teacher assessment, ladies and gentlemen, was as part of government's commitment to the open merit recruitment guidelines. An English proficiency examination was administered by the Ministry of Education with guidance from the Civil Service Reform Management Unit as part of the first ever comprehensive assessment of merit for teaching applicants. The main purpose of the assessment was to provide benchmark data to help measure the effectiveness of professional development programs that will be carried out throughout the year. The assessment covered 4 relevant categories: qualifications, experience, knowledge of contemporary teaching and learning strategies, and English proficiency, amongst others. The results from the assessment will better enable government to ensure all appointments are made on the basis of merit. The results also provide a clear picture of where we need to target investment in the professional development of our teaching staff. We want to give full assurance to our teachers that we are committed to your professional development and will invest in programs that will support you in educating young Fijians. We'll also make all appointments, transfers, and promotions in a transparent fashion and on the basis of merit and merit alone. We also want to give every assurance to the parents of our students that the Ministry is fully committed to appointing qualified and capable teachers. The assessment was also carried out to ensure that all teaching applicants meet baseline proficiency requirements prior to being appointed to teaching positions. Only teaching applicants who have met the proficiency requirements have been appointed to a teaching position in Term 1 and will be so. On Saturday, 13th of January, which is this coming Saturday, a second round of assessment will take place for those unable to sit for the first round or who previously applied and were unsuccessful at being appointed to a teaching position. Following the second round of assessment, teaching applicants who have met the baseline proficiency requirements will be appointed to a position during Term 1. Assessments will be finalized and appointment lists will be announced by 18th of January, with offer letters and contracts sent by Friday, 19th of January. Schools have contingency plans in place for some teachers who will begin teaching in the second week of Term 1. That, ladies and gentlemen, is in respect of the announcement that was made earlier on by the Ministry of Education, and also to tell you the way forward regarding that. Now, one of the other issues that we've picked up is this: you may have seen some long queues outside Marella House. This is an age-old practice. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Education has been doing this now for decades. At the beginning of the year, whenever new positions are announced or new positions are being given, we expect all the graduates from all over Fiji to turn up to Marella House in Suva. We have informed the PS and his team yesterday this is not going to happen henceforth. So all new appointments now, they do not have to come to Suva. If they, for example, live in Levuka, they don't have to come to Suva. If they live in Ba, they don't have to come to Suva. They will be sent their offer letters to the divisional office from which they come from. So if I am somebody who's given my address, home address is Ba, then I can go to the Ba Education Division office and pick up my letter. I don't have to spend all my money coming to Suva to get my letter and wait till 10 p.m. at night and maybe stay at somebody's house and incur all those costs. So this, of course, is a very archaic and old way of doing things. Unfortunately, the head office did not think outside the box, and we've said that this will no longer will take place. And indeed, going forward, I've also asked them, and I'll be working with the IT team at the Ministry of Education to see how best we can use the IT system so we can make, for example, even tests and assessments of teachers and various communications available to them online. Indeed, at the moment, unfortunately, most teachers do not necessarily have their own dedicated email addresses. They simply go and use Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail and what have you, which is fine too, but we want to be able to ensure that our teachers get on speed with the technology that we do have available. The Ministry will also be taking on a number of other reforms throughout the year, namely to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of administrative processes, streamline the recruitment process, as I mentioned, via an online application process, and enhance communications by providing online communication options for teaching staff. The Ministry will also establish a more transparent and accountable transfer policy by the end of this year that is more fair and accessible for teaching staff. Unfortunately, one of the things we have discovered is that to date there is no necessarily set, clear policy regarding transfers. A lot of the times, for decades now, people have been transferred on the basis of perhaps who they knew, who could get there first, who perhaps made a stronger representation in respect of transfer. So we have said through the reforms, we've got 3 technical people through the Civil Service Reform Management Unit who are now attached to the Ministry of Education to draw out all these policies. So it's transparent, because we've had, of course, over the past number of decades, accusations that some people get transfers more readily. We have, just to give a practical example, some people get transferred because perhaps they recently got married. One spouse is transferred to, say, the northern part of Vanwalevu, the other is now transferred to the southern part of Vanwalevu. So people obviously want to be together, or there are other extraneous factors that people want to be transferred for. So we need to have clear protocols in respect of this, and who should get first priority. So all of this obviously will lead to a lot better confidence within the system. As you know, that announcement had been made by the Ministry of Education that the first teaching day will be on Monday, 15th of January. As you also know, that as announced after the pay rise that all the teachers have received, and in respect of the reforms that have been put in place, as we have, for example, in countries like Australia, we have what we call student-free days for teachers, and there will be 7 of those for 1 year. 3 is in the beginning of this term, 2 at the end of the first term, and 2 in the end of the second term. These are days when teachers actually come into school before the students actually get to school. So they're able to prepare their classes, their notes, they're able to go through various training. Some of you who may have been upstairs this morning when we launched the education awareness program through the elections office, the Fijian elections office, where the teachers who will be teaching year 10 will also be able to get taught or get caught up with the syllabus regarding the elections. So all of these student-free days gives the opportunity for teachers to actually prepare, so from day 1 they can start. Boarding schools, of course, may in fact have their teaching days somewhat not necessarily on Monday, because most parents will bring their children to the boarding schools on Monday. They get enrolled, they get into their accommodation, etc. But the schools, as has been assured by the Permanent Secretary, all the schools are ready to start on Monday. So we urge all the school committees and management to actually work together with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the schools are all ready to have accommodate the students from Monday. The other issue, as you may have seen, ladies and gentlemen, has been the e-ticketing. As you know, that there has been a number of road shows around the country, you would have seen in different centers. We wanted to ensure that the school students actually get their e-ticketing cards before school actually starts. So rather than on Monday, people running around not being able to get the card itself. So we've said that we will have these road shows, and they've already started. The last record we have is that about 25,000 cards have already been distributed, and we understand that there'll be an influx of parents and students over the next few days. As you know, in Fiji we tend to do things the last minute, and Saturday obviously is the last day before the actual school starts on Monday. So I urge parents and students, please go to these road shows. We've got 26 road shows throughout the country, in different town centers and various other locations, to please go and get your cards. And as you know, that we have the yellow cards or the blue cards. The blue cards is where it's fully subsidized. So those people, those children who come from households that earn less than $16,000 a year, they don't actually have to pay a single cent for the bus fare. And those who actually have the yellow card are students whose parents earn more than that, but nonetheless they still pay half the fare, because as students you pay half the fare of an adult. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we've had some abuse since e-ticketing started. We've actually had some parents using the children's cards We've had some people using cards, late in the night. They're obviously not going to school. They're obviously not coming back from school. So we have worked out with the bus companies that from Monday to Saturday, they can use their cards. The students can use their cards. That is the blue card. And from any time between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. This will be implemented over the next couple of weeks to ensure that all the ticketing machines actually comply with that. So it won't be able to read it after 7 p.m. or prior to 5 a.m. But it'll take about a couple of weeks or so to be able to ensure that those timelines are adhered to. But of course, for 6 days a week, within those times, they can travel and use those cards at the subsidized blue card rate. The road shows, as I highlighted again, I'd like to reiterate that please go to these road shows. They open till the 13th of January, which is this Saturday, from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. What we intend to also do is that we want to very quickly ensure that those who may have been left out actually don't get left out, and we'll ensure that all of those processes are in place, because we want no child to actually miss out on the first day of school. Distribution of Weet-Bix and milk, we've already started doing that. The outer islands have all received these. We've had 3 islands in the Olamai Viti group that should be getting it this weekend. We've had some schools, unfortunately, even though the school management and committees were informed that the milk delivery is going to come on such and such a day. When the delivery actually went to the schools, there was nobody there to receive them. So they've had to come back. So I'd like to urge all the school managements to please be responsible. We want our children to have access to milk and this Weet-Bix. We've also had a similar situation. We made a decision that unlike previous years, the textbook should be available from day one. So all the textbooks have also been sent out to all the schools. And in some instances, we've had some schools where they've turned up, the Ministry of Education staff have turned up with the textbooks. The schools have not been open, so they've had to come back. So we are ensuring that the delivery of all the subsidized textbooks actually will get to all the schools. So if you're a school management that actually has not opened up the school for the textbooks, please do so. Get in touch with the Permanent Secretary of Education and his team or the divisional officers, and they'll make sure you get the textbooks. And this was a huge logistical exercise. I'd like to thank those people who have been involved in it for this rollout of the textbooks. We also have been informed by the Permanent Secretary and his team that some schools, despite the free textbooks and despite some textbooks, as you know, needs to be purchased by the schools because they're specialized textbooks. So some schools, for example, that may do, teaching in Hindi as a subject, you've got to buy a specific textbook. Those textbooks are also funded by government, but the schools are actually required to buy that from the grant we give them. What we found is apparently about 6 schools that for the past 3 years or so have actually been charging the parents for those textbooks. If you're a parent, please don't pay anything for textbooks. The government is fully funding it. If any teacher, any head teacher, any principal, vice principal, anybody asks a parent to pay for any textbooks, please lodge a complaint with us, because those funding that we give to the schools is actually for the textbooks also, and also we are giving directly all other textbooks that are required by students. The early childhood education teacher pay rise, as you know, came into effect last year also. The salaries a few weeks ago was backdated to August, and the appointments, as you know, the early childhood education system is now coming within the purview of Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Education also in the process of transferring free education grants to school accounts this week. So before the early childhood education grants were given later on in the term, we're now giving it to them upfront, even though we're giving them 50% upfront to ensure that they have all the tools, all the facilities purchased upfront, so that the students don't miss out, because some of the EC schools were saying, because we don't have a grant, we cannot buy all the amenities and all the facilities. We're giving them the money upfront. Should there be any shortcomings on their part, then we can make the adjustment in the 50%, balance 50% later on in the year when we give them the balance of the 50%. So we have put in place a number of mechanisms, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that the schools are fully functional by next week. Of course, with some of the late appointments of some of the teaching positions, that should be all completed at the latest. within 2 weeks, and contingencies have been put in place by the respective schools, and indeed the permanent secretary and his team are working with the schools themselves. So this is essentially the key issues pertaining to the school term starting next week. And I'd like to thank, of course, all the parents who've actually made those arrangements for their children to attend school. They've gone out and purchased all those textbook, the exercise books, etc., getting ready for it. Of course, it's a big deal for students to go back to school, and as government, our responsibility is to ensure that we firstly get the teachers in place, and also to be able to ensure that all the other amenities and facilities that have been offered by government, like textbooks, like e-ticketing, like free milk and Wit-Bix, all of that is available from day one. So thank you for that.